Welcome everybody. This is part 13 of step-by-step vitrectomy. Part 13 includes epiretinal membrane, different causes and different scenarios. Different causes of epiretinal membrane. The first one is diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy can cause epiretinal membrane by two mechanisms. The first one is anomalous BVD with resultant epiretinal membrane. The second one is advanced PTR with formation of fibrovascular membranes over the macula. The second cause is trauma with release of cells which may settle on the surface of the macula with formation of epiretinal membrane. The third one is vascular retinopathy like CRVO with secondary new vessels and the formation of fibrovascular membranes. The most important cause is retinal break. Epiretinal membrane may be the only sign of a primary retinal break with release of retinal pigment epithelial cells which proliferate on the surface of the macula, then forming an epiretinal membrane. Also, aggressive laser or especially cryopexy with buccal can cause secondary epiretinal membrane. Idiopathic epiretinal membrane. This is the most common cause of epiretinal membrane, which may account for at least 5% of cases or even more. Old retinal detachment with BVR can cause epiretinal membrane. Uveitis with release of inflammatory cells is also a cause. In some cases of hereditary retinal disorders, there may be a secondary epiretinal membrane on the surface of the macula. Also, post-surgery, like vitrectomy, there may be an epiretinal membrane. The OCT staging of epiretinal membrane. Stage 1, the foveal pit is preserved. Stage 2, the foveal pit is lost. In stage 3, there are ectopic inner foveal layers, but the retinal layers are well defined. In stage 4, there are also ectopic inner foveal layers, but there is marked distortion of the retinal layers. Also, there may be splitting of the retinal nerve fiber layer. So, what are the indications for treatment of an epiretinal membrane? The indications are functional. The first indication is best-corrected visual acuity less than 20/40. Also, if there is significant metamorphopsia interfering with daily activities of the patient. Now, there are video examples of different causes of an epiretinal membrane. The first cause and the most common cause is an idiopathic epiretinal membrane. The epiretinal membrane can be well identified without staining, but in some cases, we need to stain to identify the epiretinal membrane. The stains used for epiretinal membrane is triamcinolone acetate and trypan blue. After staining, we will start to remove the epiretinal membrane. Always grasp the epiretinal membrane from a near point and going tangentially to the retina until complete removal of the epiretinal membrane. After removal of epiretinal membrane, we need to stain the ILM. Staining with the ILM with either BBG or ICG. The staining is to identify if the ILM is removed coincidentally with the epiretinal membrane or it needs to be removed, what is called double staining. After staining of the ILM, then removal of the ILM over the macula. The value of removal of ILM is to remove the scaffold for formation and recurrence of an epiretinal membrane postoperatively. In some cases, with OCT showing a large cyst below the center of the fovea, it is better to do what is called fovea sparing ILM peeling to avoid the roofing of the cyst and the conversion into a macular hole. The second video is an epiretinal membrane in a diabetic patient. As we see, the epiretinal membrane is well identified without staining, so starting to remove the epiretinal membrane without doing any stain, as long as we can see. At any moment, if we can't identify the epiretinal membrane, we can stain. After removal of the epiretinal membrane, then we will stain with BBG to identify the ILM is removed or not. In this case, after staining the ILM is removed coincidentally with the epiretinal membrane. The third video is an epiretinal membrane in one of the hereditary retinal disorders. This patient, as we see, has retinitis pigmentosa. These cases have very tight posterior hyaloid, very tight epiretinal membrane, and also very taut ILM. So when removing the posterior hyaloid, we have to remove it cautiously because it is strongly attached, and in stress with a peripheral thin retina with scars, it may lead to iatrogenic retinal breaks. Doing a fovea sparing BVD, and also later on doing fovea sparing and epiretinal membrane and ILM peeling, preserving the center of the fovea. In these cases, we hope to keep the central vision because the patient has lost the peripheral vision. As we see, there is a retinal fault is present radially in the lower part of the retina. We don't have to make unfolding for this retinal fault. It will unfold by itself within a short period of time postoperatively, as long as we remove the traction over it. The third video is a post-traumatic epiretinal membrane. This case was an 8-year-old child with an epiretinal membrane post-trauma. As we know, the posterior hyaloid is always strongly attached in this age group. So, in every attempt to remove this posterior hyaloid, and it is always challenging. After removing of the posterior hyaloid, then we will start to remove the ILM before removing the epiretinal membrane. When removing the ILM, the epiretinal membrane overlying the ILM will get out with the removal of the ILM, and then increasing the area of ILM removal. The fourth video is an epiretinal membrane secondary to uveitis. This patient was a child with uveitis with an epiretinal membrane present over the disc and also extending over the surface of the macula. After removing of the epiretinal membrane, then staining the ILM and starting to remove the ILM. In this case, the retina is edematous, friable, so be cautious when removing the ILM. The ILM itself may tear the retina, and also there is no adequate support of the retina because the retina is mobile. The last video is the most important one, epiretinal membrane secondary to a retinal break. As we see, there is a mottling the staining with BBG. This means the presence of an epiretinal membrane. The area of ILM takes the stain very well. The area with an epiretinal membrane almost doesn't take the stain. Removing the ILM together with the epiretinal membrane, and then going for shaving. While shaving, we found this horseshoe retinal break with surrounding pigmentations, a sign of BVR. So, it wasn't an idiopathic epiretinal membrane, but it was an epiretinal membrane secondary to a retinal break. So, in every case of an epiretinal membrane, we have to search in the periphery for the presence of a retinal break. And thank you for watching.